Hello and welcome to the Pleasurepreneur Podcast. This podcast will help you create what you desire in your business with pleasure. Whether that be calling in your ideal clients, making more money, or creating a balanced business life blend. I'm your host, Regan, pleasure and business coach, published author of A Mother's Pleasure, wife and mama to 3 little wildlings. However you're choosing to listen to this podcast, ask yourself, how can I make this more pleasurable? And do just that. I acknowledge the custodians of the land on which this podcast is recorded and produced, the Wadi Wadi people of Dharawal land. Now, let's proceed with pleasure. All right, let's dive into the podcast. I want to share something today that's going to help you make big decisions, like the ones that feel a bit scary or edgy or risky, from a more informed, grounded, calm, self-trust place. And this is going to be powerful. Now, this is whether you are the one thinking about saying yes to something or whether you're the one selling something that potentially could change someone's life, right? It will also help you understand how to support your potential clients when fear shows up for them so that they can make grounded, informed decisions that isn't being led purely by fear or protection. So this is the episode that will help you give yourself what you want, even when fear is present. Because we all probably know by now that fear is part of almost every big decision we make. Yeah, you will have felt this yourself. You've felt this when you started your business, when you maybe DM'd to invite a client, a potential client to work with you, when you have signed up for your first course or enrolled with your first coach or mentor, right? You know the fear that comes with making decisions. Now, instead of trying to ignore the fear or override it or make it disappear, I want to help you understand what's actually happening in your brain and your nervous system when it shows up and why, so that whether you're the buyer or the seller, you can move forward from a place of understanding and not fear. Now, this is not a training or an episode on how you manipulate, shame, or bypass fear in order to get a yes. This is about understanding what the fear is, why the fear is there, and how to reach a grounded, informed decision that you're happy with, whether that's a yes or a no. You're going to learn something that will be really helpful for you when it comes to making decisions and the way you show up and sell. And you're going to get some very practical ways to support yourself with big decisions like investing in coaching and come out of those decisions feeling confident with your choice. So again, this is not how to turn a no into a yes or how to even get a yes. It's about learning the mechanisms at play that will actually stop you from giving yourself what you want or that will stop your potential clients giving themselves what they want. And after this episode, once you see the biggest reason for this fear in leaning into a new decision, you will start noticing it everywhere. You will start noticing it in your own decisions, in your clients' decisions, in why you hesitate, in why you wait, in why selling can feel harder than it needs to. It is called loss aversion. And it's basically this. As humans, we feel the pain of losing something more strongly then we feel the pleasure of gaining something of equal value. So losing $100 feels worse than gaining $100 feels good. Yeah. And this is not a personality thing or a confidence thing. It is a brain thing. Like it's biology. Is it Anchorman when he goes, it's science. It's science. It's psychology. It is survival wiring. You know, it shows up massively in business, both when you're the one making the decisions, like when you're the one thinking about, say, investing, and when you're the one selling something, as I said earlier, that could change someone's life. So I want to unpack what it is, why we have it, how it shows up, and how to work with it instead of against it. There's going to be some really practical pieces at the end that you can move through to actually help you the next time you have a big decision that you want to make that you do not want to be led by fear. So let's talk about what loss aversion actually is. The simplest way to understand it is that your brain is wired to protect what you already have. Yeah, like money, time, energy, reputation, stability, any kind of resource really, because thousands of years ago, losing resources could literally mean danger or like loss of survival. Yeah, so less food, less safety, less shelter. So our brains evolved to treat potential loss as a threat. And even though we're not out here in caves trying to survive winter anymore, your nervous system still reacts to perceived loss as if it matters for survival. Yeah. So when you're making a decision that involves risk, your brain isn't just looking at what you could gain. It's scanning for what you could lose. And it gives that way more focus and emotional weight. So here is how it shows up for you as a buyer. So this is the moment that I see all the time. And you might see this with your clients as well. When someone says like, oh, I really want to join your mastermind, or I know this would help me. I really want to work with you. I can feel this is what I need. And then comes the hesitation. And it's not because they don't want it, but because their brains start running a loss-focused story. Yeah. What if I lose the money? What if it doesn't work? What if I regret it? What if nothing changes? And do you notice what's kind of happening here? It's like, even if the potential gain is more income, more clients, more enjoyment, more support, more confidence, more ease, the brain zooms in on the possible loss. Yeah, like the money leaving the bank account, the risk of it not working, the fear of looking silly, the fear of making the wrong decision. Yeah, and that fear can feel bigger than the excitement or the motivation of what's possible. Not because of a lack of belief, but because loss feels more intense in the body than gain feels good. So I want to say that part again. Not because of a lack of belief, but because loss feels more intense in the body than gain feels good. Now, you might have heard this before when other people, it feels like they're trying to convince you to invest with them. And it's like, well, if you don't sign up with me, you obviously don't believe in yourself. So how are you ever going to get anywhere? Even me saying this out loud makes me feel like, oh God, can I leave my own podcast episode? Right? And it's like this idea that like, oh, you just don't have a big enough belief. It's like, no, actually, you're biologically and psychologically wired to avoid risking resources. You're avoiding loss. You are avoiding risk to your survival. Yeah. So it's really great to know that this is what's happening kind of in the background, in the more like reptilian parts of our brain. Yeah. It kind of reminds me of when I went overseas to go dancing for a year. So this was when I was 19, right? I just started dating this guy, very fresh. Like it was only 4 months that we were together before I was due to fly out. And I was really like devastated to leave him, but also I really wanted to go. And so I felt so conflicted. And then he said, I'll be here when you get back, so let's stay together. The option to stay together was on the table. Now, obviously, there was no certainty. There was no proof. There was no guarantees that us doing long distance would actually work and that we'd stay together. And might I remind you that at this time, which was over 20 years ago, there was no Facebook Messenger or FaceTime or Zoom. There was MySpace and emails, and that was about it. And instead of me thinking like, oh, how cool, I get to have both. I get to have this contract to dance overseas and the guy that I love, like fully loved, was all over him. Just, this was it, But I remember going into that full kind of protective mode, like, don't do it. You'll get hurt. What if you waste a year on this? Like, what if it's embarrassing and it falls apart? Like, I'm going to be heartbroken. Now, that was loss aversion. My brain was more motivated to avoid the potential heartbreak than it was to move toward what I actually wanted. Now, thankfully, I was able to overcome that and say yes and give myself what I wanted, which was to stay together with this guy and go dancing. So we did stay together, long distance and everything. It was uncertain. It was risky. As I said, there was no FaceTime or anything. There was no promises that it would work out. And now we've been together for 20 years and we are happily married with 3 children. And so I think about this a lot with big decisions, right? The most meaningful yes, like the most aligned, meant to be yes decisions still have fear. They still have often loud loss aversion and often feel like, desire mixed with uncertainty. So let's say, for an example, you're considering joining the Pleasurepreneur Mastermind. The potential gain is more clients coming in, more income flowing, more spaciousness in your days, feeling supported for 6 months instead of doing it alone. clear strategy instead of second guessing, growing your business faster and with more ease, right? Like, let's just wrap that up there. And then let's look at the potential loss. Some potential loss could be, as we spoke about before, money leaving your account now, uncertainty, like no guarantees, and the fear that it won't work for you. Now, even like in this example, the upside is huge, but your beautiful brain can latch onto, oh, but what if I lose the money? And that emotional charge can feel stronger than, but what if I make the same amount or like 10 times more, right? Loss aversion in action. Loss aversion right there. So here's how this shows up as a seller, right? So you've got an offer, you're selling to your amazing audience, calling in your dream clients to come and work with you, right? Loss aversion doesn't just show up when you're the person buying. It also shows up when you're selling, yeah? So that can look like you avoiding talking about your offer or raising your prices or like following up with people you've made invitations to or making bold invitations altogether. Yeah. Now, this is because your brain is scanning for loss. What if they say no? What if I annoy people? What if I lose followers? What if they think I'm too much? Yeah. What if they think that I'm pushy and they reject me? Yeah. So instead of focusing on the gain of helping people, changing lives, increasing your income, growing your business, your brain, your system fixates on potential rejection, and rejection to the nervous system can feel like a social loss. And any social loss used to mean being excluded from the group, which back in then meant danger and risking survival, right? So again, your brain is just doing its job, protecting you from loss. So you'll notice this showing up in really subtle ways. So as the buyer, loss aversion will probably look like waiting until you feel ready. Like that story of like, I'm just going to wait until I feel ready, or waiting until money is more consistent, waiting until there's more proof first, staying in research mode, saying maybe next round. Yeah. Deciding that you've got to make that money first, or deciding you've got to sign a certain amount of clients first, right? Even when there's desire. As a seller, it can look like underpricing, softening your message, not inviting people in or not inviting them like clearly, hiding your excitement, or avoiding things like following up people. Yeah, because part of you is trying not to lose, whether that's losing approval or comfort. Yeah. Now, here is why this matters for both sides, for both you as the buyer as well as you as the seller. It matters because if you're making your decisions through the lens of loss aversion, taking those feelings of fear as a reason to back away and not say yes or to not sell to your audience, right? You will only be surviving in familiar territory and not progressing. You won't be stretching your comfort zone or making new changes, which are all of the things that progress us as modern day humans in business rather than like old school humans in a cave. Yeah, like this is where this gets to be really powerful for you, because when you can understand loss aversion, you can stop making it mean that you're not serious, that you don't believe in yourself, that you don't want it enough. And you can also stop making it mean as a seller that like perhaps I'm bad at selling or I'm too pushy or I shouldn't talk about my offer. Yeah. Instead, you see, oh, this is just a human brain trying to stay safe on both sides. Yeah. So there's one more layer to this that I think is really important to talk about, because when we think about loss, most of us will automatically think about the loss of money, right? Like we think like, what if I spend this and it doesn't work? What if I regret it? What if I don't make it back? And that makes complete sense. But here's the part your brain doesn't naturally calculate. It doesn't automatically show you the cost of staying where you are. Yeah, like the time, the money left on the table, the opportunities that might pass you, the extra year of second guessing or doing it alone or your income not growing. Yeah, like all of those things, they're losses too, right? But they are just quieter and like further into the future. Yeah, like it's slower and less obvious. And because of that, your nervous system doesn't react to it as strongly. Yeah, so it keeps focusing on the money leaving now instead of the growth that might not happen if nothing changes. And there is just, this quiet moment where you might notice, I want more. I'm craving more. I'm ready for something to shift. And at some point, there's this realization that doing nothing is still a decision too. And staying where you are has a cost too, even if that cost is slower or quieter, or as I said, like less obvious. So, okay, how the heck to navigate this? That is literally what I've written here as like the heading for this kind of like section with dot points underneath. How the heck do we navigate this? I want to give you something really practical because understanding why your brain does this is helpful, but what do you actually do when you're in that moment, right? When you want something, but you're scared and the fear feels louder than the desire, but you also don't want to just ignore the fear and do it anyway. You want to make a grounded and informed decisions. Like, what the heck do we do? Okay, there are a few things I recommend you do when you are sitting in that space to, first of all, not override the fear, but to steady yourself inside of it. Because, as we've spoken about, fear doesn't mean stop. It just means slow down and make a grounded decision. Well, that's what I think anyway. Okay, so number one, my first recommendation for you. If you are the buyer deciding on what to invest in, let's assume this is coaching and mentoring here because this is what I help my buyers with. Go read the testimonials. Go read the reviews and the results. Go read the stories of the women who have already done the thing you're considering doing. Yeah, because when you're in fear, your brain zooms in on everything that could go wrong, right? It's scanning for danger and it's scanning for threats, but testimonials and reviews will give your brain evidence and show your nervous system that people do get results, that, this has worked for other people, that I'm not the only one who's been in the position. I'm not the only one who's been in this position, right? It helps your body feel safer. It helps you move from what if this doesn't work to, what if this actually supports me? What if this actually works for me? How I'm envisioning it too, right? Now, this isn't just about my mastermind or any specific offer. This is for anything you're considering investing in. Yeah, read the evidence. Let your brain see proof and let your nervous system be a little more soothed. Yeah. Now, if you're selling and you don't have testimonials or client wins displayed somewhere, ideally on your sales page that people go to, it is a really important piece that's missing in order for your buyers to make a grounded, informed decision. Yeah. The testimonials and client wins, it is not bragging, it is customer service. So your buyers don't need to be making a decision with a lot of fear attached, and will help them to feel confident in their decision to work with you. Your job as the seller is to be connecting people with what they want. You can help them create the results they're desiring. They are desiring the results. Yeah. They want to work with you. They want to create those results. Your job is to help them give themselves what they want. This is how I see it anyway. My job when I am sharing about my one-on-one work or the mastermind is to share the information, share the reviews, the results, the kind of work I can help people with, share my expertise and my story, share whatever it is that is going to help them and support them give themselves what they want. And part of giving ourselves what we want is moving past the fear. So part of me helping my clients give themselves what they want is helping them to move past the fear or be with the fear, right? Like lessen the fear. And part of that is sharing testimonials. So on my mastermind sales page, I not only have client testimonials and lots of real life screenshots of client wins from inside the mastermind, I have almost 3 hours worth of podcast episodes interviewing mastermind clients and hearing their results, and also links to 3 real life testimonial videos of my clients leaving the actual testimonials listed on my webpage, right? I want to ensure that if my buyers want to buy the mastermind, there's going to be as much as I can give them to help ease this loss aversion for them. I want to help them give themselves what they want. Okay, so number 2, my second recommendation, look at your own evidence. Yeah. So not just perhaps the coach's results, yours. Yeah. Where have you backed yourself before and it worked out? Where have you grown before because you chose something that felt a bit scary, or even though it felt a bit scary, right? Where have you invested in yourself, time, money, energy, and it changed something beautifully for you? Yeah, where have you trusted yourself in making financial decisions and it's paid off? Because your brain forgets that, right? Your brain only remembers risk. It forgets the times you figured things out or you were really creative and resourceful, the times that you stretched, the times that you made it work. So reminding yourself of your own track record is going to help to build more of that self-trust, or like remind yourself that you trust yourself, you know? Self-trust is what actually makes decisions feel safer. We know we've got our back, right? Okay, now for recommendation number 3, there's this one and then one more. So 2 more to go. I want you to get really honest about what you're actually afraid of. Yeah, not like the surface fear, the real one. Now, you know what this is. You know that I know that we both know that you know what it is. Yeah, like, what if I don't make the money back? What if I fail? What if I'm the only one who doesn't get results? What if I'm disappointed? Because when you name the fear, it gets smaller, right? I want you just to, first of all, in this section, name the fear. What are you really afraid of? Yeah, because when it stays kind of vague, it feels massive. And often it stays vague because we don't want to look it in the eyes. We don't want to actually write it down or explore it or excavate it anymore. Okay, so when it stays vague, it feels massive. So then I want you to ask, if that happened, would I actually be okay? And what would I actually do? I remember a client who couldn't shake the, but what if question, right? She said, but what if I can't make the repayments? And so we addressed that. I didn't try and tell her. I obviously didn't tell her she just doesn't believe in herself enough. No, I said, okay, let's look at it. Like, let's look at what happens if you can't make the repayments. We went through the actual steps and I shared with her exactly what her options would be and how it would play out. And this was my client who smashed her first launch goal by 550%. Yeah, her goal of signups was 10 and she got 55 women in and then went on to have a 5-figure launch. Yeah, like the testimonial from this and podcast episode is on the sales page for reference. But whilst this was so far away from her initial fear, like what if I can't make repayments? Her meeting her worst fear before deciding actually wasn't like so scary to her after all. Yeah, so name the fear, like workshop it. Ask if you'd be okay. And the answer is almost always yes. Like, oh, you might be uncomfortable. You might need to adjust. You might need to try again. But you'll be okay. Yeah, that creates space for you. Okay, and the last one, which I think is so important and often overlooked, is to tune into your body. Yeah, not just your head, because your head will always find reasons to wait. Yeah, that loss aversion is strong. Your brain wants to keep you in familiar, safe territory. Yeah, your head loves certainty, but your body knows desire. And desire is information. So instead of only asking, does this make logical sense? I want you to ask, does this feel expansive? Does this feel aligned? Does this feel like the version of me I'm becoming? Because usually the decisions that grows you the most are the ones that feel a little scary and a little exciting at the same time. Or maybe like a lot scary and a lot exciting at the same time, right? All right. So loss aversion is, one of those things that once you understand it, everything makes heaps more sense. Why decisions feel hard, why growth can feel scary, why desire and fear can exist at the same time even. It doesn't mean you should ignore the fear, and it certainly doesn't mean you should override your instincts, but it does mean you can look at your hesitation with more awareness. And you can ask yourself, like, is this my intuition or is this my brain trying to protect what feels familiar? Because often, and I bet you know this, your next level sits just on the other side of that moment, yeah? Where like desire is pulling you forward and the like protection is pulling you back. Your job isn't to eliminate the fear. It is to build the kind of trust, self-trust that helps you to decide which voice you want to lead, yeah? And so this is the part where I want to gently leave the ball in your court, because doing nothing is still a decision. Waiting is still a decision. Staying where you are is a decision. Telling yourself maybe later is a decision. And, sometimes that's the right one, but sometimes it's just the safer one, the like least uncomfortable one. And so if you've been listening to this and there's a part of you that's like, oh, I do want more. I'm ready for something to shift. I don't want to still be in this exact same spot in my business this time next year. Then I want to invite you a little closer because the Pleasurepreneur Mastermind waitlist is open right now. And the reason I love the waitlist stage is because there's no pressure, there's no commitment, no big leap required. It's just you putting your hand up and saying, hey, I think I'm ready to explore my next level, So you get early access when doors open, when you're on the wait list. You get first dibs on the limited spots. You get all the bonuses that I'm going to be filtering in to support you to start building momentum before the mastermind even begins. The people on the mastermind are already working through my pleasure-powered sales series. So if your desire is there, even if it's sitting like right alongside the nerves, come and join us on the wait list. Because staying where you are will keep giving you what you already have, which is fine if what you have is what you already want. But if you're craving more income and more momentum and more pleasure and spaciousness in your business, at some point there's a moment where you decide to move toward that. You don't have to be fearless. You just have to be willing to trust yourself just a little bit more than you did yesterday. The link is in the show notes. Come put your name down. That's all for today.